I've told you that I'm looking for Austin, and I want to go up the cliffs here below Sawtooth Mountain. What do you think about that? What's the terrain like up there?
I think it's pretty brittle. So you have some scree fields, but bigger than scree, boulder fields is a better term, that extend in some of these places for more than 100 yards up to the cliff face. And where it doesn't have that, you've got very thick nobles or alder brush stacked up that's so hard to get through. You cannot, in some places you can't squeeze through it, as I've tried to get up there a few times. I've hunted here for 16 years. Something like that.
And if you're coming down from the top side, you've got quite a few pretty serious drop-offs, a couple hundred feet.
Yeah.
In some places, just sheer drop-offs off the cliffs.
Yeah.
So yeah, the terrain's it's pretty rough up here.
And the spot I was thinking about looking was the overlook, the first overlook there. And you think that going up the PCT again and then taking off to the east side of that, or east side of that's going to be the best option?
Yeah, I don't think you can get there very easily from the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was up there just the other day, and that's the way that I went up there, and it's a good climb going up there, but it's a good trail. The overlook that you're talking about it's got a pretty good drop off there, so it's can be a little hazardous up there as well.
So I've come up here by myself, and I've been a little concerned about that, just with wildlife, or if just I slip and fall or whatever.
Right.
Is there any risk of? I've never heard of an attack up here. Is there any risk of being attacked by some wildlife?
I don't know how high risk it is. We've both had close encounters with bears and cougars. There's a lot of them up here. A lot of bears. We've had probably 4 or 5 encounters in the last that many years with cougars in pretty close. I had one backtrack me last year to within 7 yards, and I happened to turn around, and it ran off and then came back in. Certainly didn't attack me, but it was right on my back trail and was certainly tracking me. You had a run-in with a bear last year that was...
I saw it at 22 yards and drew my bow. I had no interest in taking a bear. Drew my bow because it was just kind of passing me obliquely. And as soon as it saw me do that, it turned and charged. 3 times it slapped the ground and huffed, a big hoo, very intimidating. And I was backed up to some dead brush. I had nowhere to go, and I wound up finally having to do something when it got to 6 yards. So my belief is, had I not shot that with my bow, that it would have attacked me. It was coming. So 6 yards is plenty close enough for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you, how dangerous is it, or how easy is it to get lost out here?
Well, I hopped out of the truck in the snow one year at 1:30 in the afternoon, and I got back to my truck at 4:46 in the morning after spending an entire night pounding around trying to find my way out, and it probably snowed 18 inches that night. It was a very brutal long night, very easy to get turned around. So the lava fields don't allow your compass to work, and at the time I didn't have a GPS. Very easy to get turned around, very easy to get mixed up.
It seems like the terrain's pretty straightforward, like it just kind of slopes up and then back down. Is that not true?
So my goal when I got lost and it got dark on me was to keep the uphill side on my right shoulder. I just figured sooner or later I'd pop back out at the road. But if you notice below the falls down here that we call Timothy Falls, that's about a 300-foot drop down to the road down there. And in fact, I wound up falling onto the road, but luckily only from about 30 feet, tumbling down to the road. So that's a very sheer drop off. So while you think it's either uphill or down, there's a lot of drainages, there's a lot of cliffs, there's a lot of ponds and swamp areas. It's pretty brutal terrain, frankly.
And even between here and the cliff face, there's some pretty significant drop-offs in places.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say the terrain in and of itself is probably more dangerous than truly getting lost. I think you could be injured, especially if it gets dark on you or foggy up here. It can get fogged out pretty easily. I'd say the terrain is probably the most dangerous thing.
I agree.
There's wild animals up here. We've had close encounters. Like you say, there's no recorded deaths from animals up here. So, whether that's just us being nervous when you got a cougar at 7 yards or a bear at 6 yards, which I think is plenty of reason to be nervous. I'm not sure that's the biggest risk. Some of the drop-offs, if you're up on the trail, up on the Sawtooths, I think are very hazardous. And you can see down here, I've torn up my ankle pretty bad up here on a fall. So it would be, and I think if I hadn't been close to the road and if you hadn't been there, I'd probably still be there. I mean, I couldn't move when I tore up my ankle. And that was coming down a pretty short bank, probably 15, 20 foot tall, and just got tangled up. And so I'd say the terrain is by far the most dangerous thing up here.
What was the terrain like? Sounds like you had some obstacles when you got a little turned around too.
Yeah, so I more than once fell off of. If you get in the terrain up here, you'll get the high ground often has small cliff faces. When I say small, 10-foot drops. I think I fell off something about that, 8 or 10 feet in the dark coming out. And then I also fell through. There's several ponds or small lakes. I fell through one that was frozen over, and I thought I was on the road. Actually, I hit something smooth and flat, and then wound up dropping through the ice. It was only about waist deep, thankfully, but and most of them are very shallow that we run into. But so the terrain is brutal.
What advice would you give anybody that was coming up here?
You need to be doubled up. You can't go in one at a time. Even if we decide we're going to hunt somewhere by ourselves, we let people know exactly where we're going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So
we use radios to communicate back and forth, and so we before we go out and for an afternoon hunt, especially because getting lost up here in the dark it's where you could really get hurt. There's usually 2 or 3 of us hunting together. And we don't hunt side by side, but we tell each other where we're going to be. So
cool. One other thing that I'm curious about is, have you guys ever found any odd tracks up here?
So you're talking about people tracks up here?
That's a deep subject right there. Everybody's got an opinion about that, Been years worth of research, and